right back, Charlie.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
Because you always use that active when defending. I've been given like.
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian, bro. Come on.
I'm meeting my bad people. Are we live? Of course we're live. People deluded, I'm back again. Now I can't imagine you don't know who Babs is. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, of course, good night. There's nothing really to talk about in this international break. That's why we're here to save the day. Got some questions for Bab, nothing too major, just related to Arsenal. But before all of that, big up you. Look, what you saying, bro? You good?
All good, man. I didn't know you had the ball like that, man. Smacking them top bins, yeah?
No wonder, man. That's getting spanned for about 50 years, man. We might win the Prem by the time I'll get the next one, bro.
Oh, man. Nah, big up yourself, man. Appreciate the invite.
Minor, man. Congrats on getting 100k by God's grace, you know, 200, 300 milli, all of those sort of things.
Hopefully, man.
It's lonely at the top, bro, man. I know. Let's get
Nah. Man. It's all calm, man. It's all blessed, man. It's all blessed. But listen, man, I appreciate this. And I obviously know the content, the quality you have as well. So I think it's only a matter of time when you get the same as well.
You're too humble, man. I appreciate that. To kick this off, yeah, obviously, you're on the ball when it comes to content. So I can't imagine you haven't seen Ivan Toney's content and what he said in his comments. I can't imagine you don't know of the whole Twitter stuff we've been doing. What do you make of his latest comments? Obviously, because we beat Brentford.
Yeah, I seen him. I'm not really surprised. I think the way he operates, obviously, he likes to talk about Arsenal. I mean, people always talk about his tweet, but I swear he went on a podcast as well and he spoke about Arsenal pretty in depth and how you know it's easy to play against and stuff. So you know, I actually like the fact that he realizes there's no point of biting back because we're a different Arsenal. I like that fact. He realizes there's no point because Arsenal are a good team now, and anything he says will be used against him. So the last thing he wants is to inspire us again the next time we play Brentford at the Emirates. So I'm not really surprised. I think he's a good striker. I just think he needs to keep his mouth shut when it comes to Arsenal.
Generally, where do you stand on players making content? Because obviously, or comments, better. I keep saying content. Obviously, like we live in a day and age where everybody's a somewhat robot, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm with you. You know, if you take it, you got to be able to. You know, if you give it, you got to be able to take it. Obviously, the next time they beat us, if they ever beat us again, he's gonna have a lot to say. Gabriel seems to be the front runner. Where are you at with players making comments or showing some personality generally?
I don't mind it. I'm for it. And if it was an Arsenal player, I would have been for it as well. I mean, Gabriel doing that is the same thing, which he can obviously use, like Tony could use to his, you know, to spur him on the next time we played him. But I also think sometimes, you know, what he did there, it was a bit too soon, too quick. And as an Arsenal fan, obviously, I don't like it. But I guess as Brentford fans and Premier League fans, they loved it. So, you know what? Putting my Arsenal fan bias to one side, yeah, I like the fact players, they're not robots and they're going for it. And I want to see rivalries, man. I'm sick and tired of seeing Jurgen Klopp hugging it out with Guardiola week in, week out, man. I don't want no handshakes. I want to see Arsenal United pushing about, fights, man. That's what gets me excited in football sometimes. Like, I don't support Chelsea or Spurs, but watching Conte and Tuchel go for it, like I was hooked. And I want stuff like that more often.
That's what the game's about, basically.
Exactly. Every when I see Arteta go, face to face with Klopp, I like that. I want my manager to be like that. So, yeah, I think I appreciate what he was doing, but at the same time, he's going to have to hold that.
Where you at with Arsenal's players, though? Because obviously some critics might say we should let it go as a year ago. He dished it, we gave it back. We may not have necessarily needed to do this, you know, I have to remain impartial. Where you at with people saying that it is a bit cringy, as Ivan said?
I don't think it's cringy, man. I think, you know, you give it, you take it. You know, you can't give it out and then expect nothing to come back your way. And look, he's helped Arsenal, innit? So, for example, the first game we played him at the Emirates, Mikel Arteta clearly used it in the dressing room, according to the documentary. And then the second time again, these players are using it. So, I think it's not really cringy if you go and win, right? if we go and do that after a loss or something, then fair enough. But we come out, we win the game, 3 points for collectors, and we keep moving. So I don't think it's cringy at all, actually.
I hear you. I don't think it's cringy. I like to see the personality. You slag us off, we slag you back. May the best man win. Winning, losing, and drawing is part of the game. You mentioned All or Nothing. I've never had the chance to ask you, and obviously, if you haven't watched it, people go and look at it. What did you make of the All or Nothing doc?
I like it, man. I was excited for it in the first place. So watching it, I think it just showed me everything I wanted to see. You can see how the personality Arteta has, and I know he's been memed quite a bit. I've seen quite a few guys do impressions of him. But look, I like the fact that he's innovative, man. He likes different ideas. He trials stuff out. It might not always work, but that's what it's about. It's about, trial and error, and that's how you find success formulas. And I think
Amen.
I think a lot of fans after watching that are more hooked on Arteta. They can see his personality, they can see what he's about, and why players love him so much. And obviously the start of the season helps as well.
The critics would say that there's probably an element of PR. It was guided in a somewhat typical Arsenal way. Do you feel that? I wouldn't say truth, because I did think we saw no holds barred the truth. Like you said, we saw how methodical Arteta is. We saw his coaching stuff. We saw a lot of things. Do you think it was a bit PR-y? Especially I look at the Aubameyang situation. Arsenal always going to control the narrative. But, remaining impartial based on why we watched that, he didn't exactly get to cover his sort of side of things where, not to praise Spurs, you look at, Jose Mourinho and Danny Rose, you kind of got an insight into theirs as to where they're standing and what that loggerhead's about. Do you think it was somewhat a bit too scripted?
I mean, everything's narrative based nowadays, so everyone wants to set their own narrative. And you look at, for example, the Spurs one. They showed the Danny Rose stuff, but the Poch stuff, it was just gone like that. So, I think all of these documentaries have these elements of PR and narratives, and of course, the team wants to set the narrative. So I'm not really surprised by that. But I think, as you said, holding in the whole, it was pretty much the truth. We saw a lot of the behind the scenes, a lot of Arteta, what he's doing, his low moments, his high moments, him having a go at Tavares, for example. And I like that. So, yeah, a bit of PR, but it is what it is, man. It's the game.
I hear that, man. And obviously, like you said, the major point, obviously, if you're getting paid to issue a documentary, you're going to control the narrative. You're going to do what you want to do. I was going to ask you this a bit later, but, on the topic of Arteta, where are you at now? I know fans, and I think fans that remain impartial, if you didn't believe in the guy, you believe in him. If you believed in him and you don't believe in him, that's your right to express your opinion. Everything's going gravy at this moment. We have to remember it's a marathon, not a sprint, but a lot of the things Arteta spoke about are translating. For me, that you go to the Emirates, the atmosphere, everybody singing on the same page. Where are you at with Mikel now? Is there still any doubt? If there was,
where I was at the start, full support, full faith, full belief. Like I've been one of his most vocal supporters. I've got a lot of hate for that over the years. I think what I'm seeing now is what I expect. I'm not too surprised. And some fans are going, "Oh wow, Arsenal really surprising this year." I'm really not, because I expect in year 3 or season 3 for Arteta to be at this level where Arsenal are right now, where he's got his team, he's got his players, the players understand how to play, and they're just thriving. So I'm not actually that surprised. And actually, out of all the fans, I've probably got the highest expectation for Arteta this season, because I know how good he can be and how good his Arsenal team is.
Now that you said that, not to catch you out, if we don't get top 4, there has to surely be questions. Money's been spent. Man's a head manager now. Money's been spent. Where if we did not get top 4, before we focus a bit more positively, do you feel Mikel Arteta potentially Edu should face question marks? Because I agree with a lot of you said what you said. I don't think anyone's free from criticism. I think Arteta's made some mistakes. He's doing good things. I'm an Arsenal fan, as you are, but I haven't got really allegiances to Mikel Arteta beyond that. You're the guy right now, but I support my club. I lean more towards the ins. But we have to remember it's a results-driven business. You've been given free reins. This is your squad, and we need to get top 4. The whole team isn't going to wait for us to. Whole Prem isn't going to wait for us to hit maturity and all of those things. And I just look at it. I want us to get top 4. I think we've got a good chance. It's a marathon, not a sprint. But considering you signed a new deal and things like that, has the worst case scenario, is it a thing where Edu and Arteta did what we wanted Raul and Emre to do in that they've got us a good squad, a healthy squad, everyone's singing on the same hymn sheet, and maybe, just maybe, someone else takes the reins and gets us to where obviously you and I and any Arsenal fan wants us to be?
I think, look, if he doesn't get top 4, he deserves to go. And that's someone who supports Mikel Arteta. But that won't happen. It's not going to happen. He'll comfortably get top 4. I'm really confident. I don't have any doubts. I mean, of course, anything's possible, injuries and stuff. But even with injuries, with the team Arsenal have, the squad we have, I think we're more than able to get top 4 this season via the Europa League or the Champions or the Premier League as well. And I'm actually holding a bit higher in terms of not just 4th, but comfortably maybe 3rd, maybe 2nd. I don't think we're quite ready for a title yet, but we're getting there. So I don't really doubt about the top 4. But yeah, if the worst case scenario, doomsday, we don't get top 4, yeah, I think it's time to move on. We've got a squad in place and we can move forwards.
I agree with you, man. I'm more focusing on 3rd or 4th. As you said there, if we could get 2nd, why not? At this moment in time, the Premier League looks open season, with the exception of City, us, Liverpool, Spurs, United, and anyone I've missed out. You know, Chelsea, if I haven't said that. There's many pluses. I wouldn't say we've got real negatives, but there is kind of negatives. Everyone should really fancy it. It's a bit like Royal Rumble. Everyone should feel they could get that WrestleMania ticket sort of thing. And I'm 100% in agreement with you. What's the positives and negatives you've seen this season so far for you then, from a technical front, with what the players have been doing?
There's a lot more positives than negatives, and that's what gets me so excited. Exactly, and long way it continues. So I look at it in the sense of, do you know what? I'm going to start off with the negative because there's not that many. And the negative I see is that we maybe lack a bit of control in certain phases of the game. So first halves, we've been controlling most of them. We've conceded the least amount of goals, we score more goals, we make chances, and we dominate possession. Second half, in a few of the games, from minute 45 to minute 60, we lose a bit of control. And I think in those moments there, Arsenal aren't really used to it. The Arsenal players aren't used to being in scenarios where they're 2-0 up, 1-0 up, and have to deal with that. But then saying that, in the last few games, like especially against Brentford, even that 45 to 60 minute, Arsenal were dominant. Brentford maybe had a bit of...
real
exactly.
Performance, you're right.
There you go. So clearly they're learning, and that means that the one issue we have is fixable, and it is getting fixed anyways with experience. And I think that's the only negative. I don't really have anything else. We're making chances. We've got the second least XG conceded, third most big chances created. We're doing everything I want to see. And now if we can just control more games from that 45 to 60 minute window, then I think we're a very complete team. And obviously then it's about keeping your players fit. But the first team I'm very confident of. In fact, I would go as far as saying that first team, that first starting 11, if they stay fit, we'll get second. If they all stay fit. And I don't think that will happen, obviously. I think there'll be injuries involved. But I'm so confident in that first 11 of the quality they have and how good they play so far this season that they can get second place comfortably. Nothing challenged just yet because of the lack of experience of winners and Man City's quality and Haaland. But I think that first team's proper quality. The squad's getting there as well. Because you look at left back, for example, Zinchenko and Tierney. That's squad depth there. And then you look forwards past that, right back, Ben White, Tomiyasu, centre back, Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White. In midfield, you've got a few players as well. I'm loving this. I'm confident. But look, there are just a few little areas. January is massive. If we can get to the World Cup and our key players remain fit, the window opens just after the World Cup ends. So it opens in January, the season starts on December 26th. If we can get to that part of the window and Edu has some stuff, and Arsenal are proactive again, then I think get the right players in, top 4 is secured, in my opinion, and then maybe push for second. And listen, you never quite know. Europa League, maybe.
You kind of alluded to it indirectly, where you at with the squad depth, because I would say that is the real worry. Like you kind of said, I do think since I'd say the last 2 years, maybe 2.5, we've shown positive elements. We can, when everyone's fit, we can give everyone a game. Obviously, we need to improve that self-capitulation and things like that. But like you said, if everybody stays fit, and that is, easier said than done. So where you at with the squad depth? Where you at off the back of last transfer window? Because we brought in Zinchenko, brought in Jesus, as you alluded to once again. They've been great. Fabio Vieira scored a scorcher and things. I just feel where I look at the failed pursuits of Douglas Luiz /Telemans /Danilo, just the argument for a centre mid, I think we're a bit short there. And obviously Pedro Neto and them sort of wingers would have been lit. So where was you at in the summer? Obviously we did a lot of good work, but we are kind of short.
Yeah, I think definitely in defensive midfield. Wide forward with Marquinhos and Vieira can play there as well. We can get away. Even Jesus can play there. But we've got enough quality to replace Saka in certain moments. I just think in centre midfield, no Partey. That's if he's not there.
No Partey, mate.
Yeah, no Partey at all. And I think that dropper from him to Sambi is massive. Sambi on the ball, he can do a thing. But off the ball, he doesn't have that spatial awareness just yet. So I think that's why, if I'm Edu Gaspar, I'm doing the same thing Arsenal done in the summer transfer window. We were proactive. We signed all of our players before the season started. And look where Arsenal are now. Right? A good start. If Arsenal can do the same...
Pre-season. Crazy.
There you go. If Arsenal can do the same in January, get a player in early doors, not wait till deadline day and sign a loan transfer. Get your man in straight away, whether that's Danilo, out of Palmeiras, whoever, and have him ready if Partey does get injured, then Arsenal are set. But I don't want to see a reactive Arsenal where it's right towards the end and we're going for emergency loan transfers. Just get a bit of a number 6 profile, whoever that is, fast forward your summer plans to January and make sure you get Champions League football. Because that's the only position I look at and go, that's the massive drop-off. Even up front, I know Jesus is amazing, but I also rate Nketiah. And I think Arsenal's attack now is good enough to, even without Jesus, score goals. It's just that midfield. If Partey's unavailable, we have to have quality there. If we get that, then we got a squad.
And you just alluded to Jesus. Potentially we either Spurs, Liverpool, one of them games before game week 19, we probably miss him. I do like the depth. I do somewhat disagree because obviously we could still score goals, but I don't think we create enough for Jesus. And I just feel, obviously you clearly agree, he's so much more than goals. He does all that Lacazette thing. You mentioned creating chances. He's up there for that. Mentality, him and Zinchenko has been a good shift. And just generally the players that were here / brought in, there's been a mentality shift because I feel Arteta can tell you as many things as he wants. If he can take you to the water, you don't have to drink it and you don't have to really crave that performance. I don't think we're there yet, but even defending, like I'm seeing them G'ing themselves like they're really starting to like clean sheets. And I've got a lot of time for it, really and truly, real lot of time for it. Where are you at with Saka? Before we're moving on and we're going to get into a bit of the players. In fact, before the Saka comment, this is a bit of a selfish question. I was having this debate with my subscribers before, and I think you can make a case for several players. Who would you say is the most important player for Arsenal? Like, God forbid, if they're ruled out from let's just say now to January, make it a bit easier. It's long.
I think it's the number 6, Thomas Partey. I think without him in that team, you look at the 4-3-3, and for that to function, that's the centerpiece. You need that to defend, to go forwards, to progress. And I think with Jesus, he's amazing, but we can score goals without him, right? Even in the defence, if Saliba gets injured, you got Ben White, you got Tommy Asu can play there as well. But I just think in midfield, that drop-off to Sambi is massive, and I think that's why he's our most important player. But if you can add to that, and add that bit of squad depth, then what Arsenal have is so many good players. There's no weak links. I think Wenger said it himself. There's no weak point in this Arsenal team anymore. It's a strong squad across it. And Arsenal have designed that in a sense of there aren't that many standout players, but they're all very good players, and that makes a very good team. And I think that's what Arsenal have compared to Spurs, who have 2 world-class players, but the rest of the team isn't at that same level. But yeah, I think it has to be our number 5.
Where you at? Some might say Granit Xhaka.
Yeah, look, he's doing fantastic. I love Xhaka now, man. And I love the fact. No, I do now because when I was.
As you said that, I do think in football there's this thing where because you might not have rated a player now for the rest of your life, you can never rate him. Where if you play good, you deserve praise. So yeah, I cut you off, man. Where you at with Granit?
Look, growing up is learning to love Xhaka because look what he's doing, right? When I was younger. I used to hate him because I wanted, you want your pacey midfielders that can play on FIFA and blah, blah, blah. And that was what I wanted. And he was never that, right? I was like, this guy, he can't play for me in FIFA. He ain't a good player. But then as I get older and as I learn more about the game and I see him play more and more. And also, I learn about his character. I think his character is very important. The way he translates himself to the fans and the way he speaks. So honestly, I like that as a fan.
Did very well in that, man. Most normal fans, what happened. We're moving forward. Of course, some people will never forgive or forget. But yeah, man, you're right on that.
Yeah, and I think Xhaka this season is showing, he's surprising me more and more. I mean, as a number 8, I think I saw it yesterday, for shot creating actions, he's joint first with De Bruyne and Salah. This is a guy that was a number 6 a few years ago. And I think credit to Arteta as well for transforming him going forwards and actually finding him the position that he suits him the best. Where as a number 6, if he makes a mistake, it's the big issue. But if he loses the ball as a number 8, he's got enough time to win it back. Exactly. And I think we're accommodating his weaknesses, but also maximizing his strengths, which surprisingly is movement.
Isn't always the case, yeah.
Yeah. So I listen. Xhaka is important, but I just think as a number 6, Thomas Partey.
Would you entertain upgrading on Xhaka? Obviously, everyone would always upgrade, but for me, I'm a bit like I like Xhaka. I like what he does off the field. I like how he's a captain / their captain, respectfully to Odegaard. Like you said, he's Arteta's guy. Arteta's getting a tune out of him. I don't think people are fair to Xhaka because, I do think he's played like this before. I think the guy is kind of consistent. Of course, he's probably not to that higher level. He does have mistakes like everyone. And if you make mistakes, hold accountable. But I think he should just be part of the rotation. If worse comes to worse, without naming names, I just feel what Xhaka is doing or whatever Arteta wants, if you could get someone that could do that to a greater level to go with Xhaka and Partey, and obviously a 6, as you alluded to, hopefully Lokonga can get a tune now, and then he'll be a squad player for at least this season and maybe next. I think you could move into a positive light, if I'm completely honest.
Yeah, I guess you could. You definitely could have upgrade on him, but I also kind of think Xhaka is a player that evolves with the team. So he's never a player they're gonna out and out upgrade on straight away. He's always gonna be there and thereabouts because he's always fit and available, and that's the key part.
Very
A lot of
underrated
players, yeah, they get injured, they lose form. Xhaka is always fit, so he's able to pick up form and sustain that as well. And I think that's why he's gonna always be with the team. And as the Arsenal team evolves, so does Xhaka. What he was 2 years ago, he isn't now anymore. So there definitely are players you could sign. You can go more attacking. You can find a more player better defensively or whatever. But what Xhaka is so well is he's got experience now as well, and he's a leader. And on the pitch, he's very vocal. And you look at Odegaard and why he's the captain. If you watch him in the pitch, he's always commanding players of where to be. He is the manager on the pitch, and Xhaka is the same. And the fact that he's got that close relationship with Arteta as well. I think he spoke about it yesterday or today about the fact that he was about to leave Arsenal and Arteta convinced him.
Oh, we've heard that story a lot of times from Xhaka,
Exactly.
man. As much as I like Xhaka, I'm bored of it now, man.
Yeah,
But
he's
you're right.
making it very clear though that Arteta is his guy, and I think it's vice versa. I think both of them appreciate the qualities, and Xhaka's becoming a coach now, isn't he? I think I saw the report that
Him, Cedric, Holding, a few of them are doing their coaching badges. Granit Xhaka managed Ethan, who just made his debut.
Yeah, there you go. He's managing Wanyeri. So that there shows me that he will still be a part of the first team. But upgrades next season, I'm not sure if Tielemans is an out-and-out upgrade in terms of what we want
I
there.
think he'd be good in the squad, but he's a completely different player. And I wouldn't say he's a curtain raiser. My only fear with Granit is, it's a bit like Arsenal. When you look at Aubameyang, the minute Aubameyang signed that new deal, obviously ended up with Jesus, but that should have been, okay, in the next 2 years, we're looking for that replacement. When I look at Xhaka, obviously, as much as he likes the club and Arteta and these things can change. He wasn't born here. He's from Switzerland. It's a short career. He's 29, turning 30, which doesn't mean anything. But if he ever wants to leave, are we going to wait until Xhaka leaves before we replace? And like you alluded to, and I said as well, whether people like it or not, Xhaka's one of the first names on the team sheet. He's, for better or worse, he's key to what we want tactically. As I said, he's 29. I think there's an option of another year, but he's contracted until 2024. Partey is also 29. I just want us to be a bit proactive and find the somewhat replacements before they get there. Maybe they're there already. Who knows? Zinchenko and Lokonga might be able to do a thing. But that, I would say that's my only thing with Granit, really and truly. And obviously with depth purposes, Xhaka, he's done well without Partey, but you take a couple of key players out, some players might not shine as much. Xhaka, again, he actually helps lead the press, along with specifically Odegaard, Jesus, Saka does well there. So I'm keen to see what goes on.